What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm doing something a little bit different than I usually do. Today I'm commuting into some meetings. Usually, as you know, I get to work from home. That's not really doing a daily commute. So I figured while I've got the opportunity to get some time behind the wheel, I would take you guys to kind of tag along. And what we would talk about today is I'm going to talk about whether this is my favorite car that I've owned of all time. And basically it's going to be me comparing it with the M2, which as you guys know is one of my other dream cars. I'm going to talk about which is my favorite, kind of compare and contrast the two. So first I gotta say, I spent all morning watching the reveal videos for the new Porsche Cayman GT4 RS, and I gotta say it looks awesome. I've always been a big fan of the GT4, and it looks like they did an awesome job with the GT4 RS. The car just looks insane, and the sound of those things is amazing. I guess kind of my hope is now that they're releasing the GT4 RS, maybe that will bring down GT4 values just a bit, and maybe, you never know, someday we'll see one on the channel. But enough with the intro, let's hit the road and get this video started. But first, a cold start on the X3M. We are off in the X3M. I really forget how much of a hassle having a commute is after you don't have to do it for pretty much most of the year. But it does make it a little bit easier if you're getting into a vehicle like the X3M, so at least you have an enjoyable drive on the way there and back. But back to the main topic of the video. The question I wanted to answer is the X3M now my favorite vehicle of all time now that I've had some time with this? As you guys know, I also took delivery this year of an M2 Competition, which previously was my ultimate dream car. I've always just been a big fan of the M cars, so really, when I say, is this my favorite car, I'm really just comparing it with that. First off, we'll talk about how they're similar, and I would say it's that they both really fly under the radar. You know, as M performance models, most people don't really know what that is, and you figure that out because my Jeep Gladiator gets way more attention than either of my M cars. Unless you're a car person, you probably just don't know what they are, or you can kind of figure out from the sound of them that it's a performance model. But otherwise, people just don't notice that. Which me, as an introvert who really doesn't care for people coming up to them all the time and talking about their car and stuff, can appreciate that. So that's a big difference between these two cars in my Jeep Gladiator Mojave. So these cars may both be in performance models, but the experience is very different between the two. So you get into the interior of the M2, you'll notice that it looks, a lot like BMWs look for a very long time. There was a really long stretch of time where all of their interiors looked the same. They really didn't update things much. It feels very analog and a little bit old school. I do like that. But then you jump in here and you got an all digital dash. You have a huge infotainment screen. You've got this giant heads-up display. You have all these buttons on the center console, and this just feels very new and updated compared to that. This feels very digital, whereas I'd say that feels a little more analog, which sometimes you want that. Definitely in a fun car you want to have that more kind of connectedness to the road and the car, and you'll feel like everything's not running on electronics. But when it comes to a family vehicle that you want to be comfortable, you get much more of that in here. So one huge difference between the two, now that I've gotten used to it in the M2, it's not a big deal, but these are both automatics. This is an 8-speed automatic, the M2 is a 7-speed dual clutch, but there's a really big difference in how they function. And just that when you first put the M2 into gear, it doesn't, like this, when you put it in drive, it will start kind of like lurching forward if you got your foot off the brake. In the M2, it doesn't do that. It will actually act like it's still like in neutral until you actually give it some gas. So that took a little bit of getting used to it first. This is much easier to just jump in and you know how to drive it. So the next big difference I say between the two is just the horsepower numbers. So looking at this versus the M2, you're talking almost 100 horsepower difference. I get it, the M2 is not made for straight line speed. It's made to be, you know, precise, going around corners and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, it's a quick car, but this with the extra horsepower, that being a rear wheel drive and this being all wheel drive, but it makes it feel very different because this, it feels fast, it throws you back in your seat, whereas the M2 doesn't quite have that effect. So another thing that these both have in common that I enjoy is the sound. And I have to say, between the two, the M2 might sound just a little bit better. I feel like you get a little more sound in the cabin than you do in this. I don't know if this is just a lot more insulated compared to that, but I feel like in that you're getting a little more sound. So this still has plenty of sound. It will still make all of your Karen neighbors very angry. So definitely enjoy the exhaust sound of both vehicles. So the next point to compare between the two is just the overall comfort of the vehicle, and that the X3M wins hands down. Me being a taller guy, being able to sit, you know, more upright because it's an SUV. The seats are extremely comfortable in both, but you know, the M2, it has enough room for me, but I feel like, you know, even if I didn't have the sunroof option on it, my head would probably be hitting up the ceiling, against the ceiling just a little bit. So this, you know, I've got tons of headroom here. I sit more upright. It's very comfortable. I'm not uncomfortable in either one, but if I'm, you know, picking one to take on a long road trip, it's definitely going to be this thing. So I think the last point we got to talk about is just the exterior looks. And while I'm a huge fan of both, I feel like the M2, the look of that is just, it was the best looking car of kind of their last generation of stuff, and it's a look that I feel like with the new cars, they've kind of gotten away from it, and kind of sad to see that go. But yeah, I really was just a big fan of, you know, that whole generation, and, you know, thought everything for the most part looked great. Some of the new stuff, not so much, but this car is an exception to that. So I like what they did with the facelift this for the 2022s. I'm definitely a fan of the changes they made up front, the slightly bigger kidney grills and the new headlights. Gives it a slightly better look than the old ones, so definitely a fan of that. But, you know, the exterior looks department, I'd still have to give it to the M2, just because I'm such a big fan of, you know, that car and, you know, kind of that entire generation of M cars. So with all that being said, that leads us back to kind of the main question that I posed at the beginning of this video, and is this my favorite car of all time? And that's a tough one to answer because, like I said, the M2 has been a dream of mine for so long, and I enjoy that car a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's hard to get in this, you know, newer car and not feel like they've improved on things a lot. You know, in a lot of ways, this is a much better car. I will say, if I had to pick owning just one, I would pick this because, you know, number one, it's a lot more comfortable. Number two, it's a lot more versatile, where it can haul, you know, kids around and stuff. So there you go. I think that kind of answers it for you. If I just had to pick owning one car, it would definitely be the X3M of the M2. However, I'm very grateful I don't have to choose between the two, and, you know, get the opportunity to own both and enjoy both. But I gotta say, you know, driving this into work today, this is just, you know, such a fun vehicle to get into. It kind of makes me wish I had a daily commute so I could do this more often. You know, then of course I'd have to spend time in an office, which is no fun. But yeah, definitely enjoying getting this thing out today. And now, of course, I'm lost in Office Building Hill because everything looks the same. All right, well, I've arrived at my meetings. So appreciate you guys tagging along today. This is where I'm gonna wrap things up. Look for more X3M videos coming. I've got another M2 video coming soon. So more stuff coming out. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.